Dear readers, welcome to a world where the sky isn't just blue, it presses down with all its weight on those who dare to look up. And I'm honored to present my new story, The Weight of the Heavens. This is not just a fairy tale about a girl with wings. It is a deep exploration of dreams, sacrifice, and the ruthless truth of a life that sometimes breaks even the strongest wings. That night, there were no stars over the small industrial town. The sky was choked by a yellowish smog from the factory chimneys, and the air carried the familiar taste of soot and cooling metal. In an old house on the outskirts, where the plaster crumbled at the slightest vibration of passing trains, the first cry of a newborn girl rang out. It wasn't an ordinary cry. It held a strange whistling sound, as if the very air in the room were trembling. The midwife, an elderly woman with hands roughened by a hard life, recoiled from the cradle. On the infant's back, between her thin shoulder blades, something alien glistened weightly. They were two bony protrusions covered in fine, almost transparent down. They hadn't unfurled yet, pressed tight against the tiny body, but they pulsed in rhythm with the girl's heart. "Take them off," the girl's uncle muttered, standing in the doorway. "Cut them now, before she can feel it. If the town finds out, she have no life. Make her a cripple now, and she'll live a normal, quiet life at the factory, like the rest of us." The relatives gathered in the cramped hallway nodded in grim agreement. There was no malice in their eyes, only a dull, deep-seated fear. They knew, in this town, the special ones either vanished without a trace in the capital, or broke their spines against the low ceilings of the mines. The poor weren't meant to fly. The father picked up a pair of heavy kitchen shears from the table. His hands shook, smelling of machine oil and cheap tobacco. He approached the crib where Maya, the elder daughter who had barely turned 7, clutched her fists to her chest in terror. "Papa, don't," Maya whispered. "Look, they're like the angels in Mama's book." "Angels don't live in this neighborhood." "Maya," the father snapped, hovering the blades over the infant's pink skin. But at that moment, the mother, exhausted and pale, grabbed his wrist with a strength no one thought she possessed. "No," she exhaled, looking her husband straight in the eyes. "We've spent our whole lives looking down at our feet, at this filth. Our whole bloodline has bent its back. Let at least one of us see what is up there, above this smoke." "You don't understand what you're condemning us to," the uncle hissed. "This isn't a gift. It's an extra mouth to feed and hide. She have no future, only empty dreams." "She will have the sky," the mother replied firmly. That night, they left the wings untouched. While the relatives trudged back to their homes, grumbling and cursing the fools, Maya approached her sister. She carefully touched the soft down on the baby's back with the tip of her finger. The girl, named Annie, grew still. Maya looked at her own small palms, already stained by chores and hardship, and made a silent promise. She would do everything so that Annie would never know how much it hurts to walk on the ground. She would be her support, her shadow, her safety net, even if it meant Maya had to forget about her own life. Thus began the story of Annie, the girl whose flight was paid for by the sweat of others, and Maya, the girl who voluntarily became her earth. Maya sat slightly in the shadows, her hands hidden under the table as usual, gray with ingrained scale and unhealed burns. When darkness fell and the smog cleared slightly under a gust of fresh wind, Annie whispered to Maya, "Let's go to the roof. One last time." They climbed up to that same attic. From above, the town looked like a scattering of dim embers in an ashtray. "Maya," Annie embraced her sister, and her feathers, soft and warm, momentarily shielded the girl in work clothes from the entire world. There were 2 different worlds of time in their house. Maya's time began at 4 in the morning to the rattling of an old alarm clock. It was a time of coarse work fabric, ice-cold tap water, and heavy boots. Maya had long ago grown used to hiding her hands cracked, with factory grease embedded under the nails in her pockets, so as not to unsettle her sister. Ani's time was different. It smelled of the talcum powder Maya used to dust the delicate skin under Ani's wing joints, and of the old paper of textbooks. While Maya stood at the conveyor belt, Ani spent hours practicing in the attic, where their father had secretly dismantled part of the roof to build a makeshift hidden balcony. One evening, Maya returned home later than usual. She was reeling from exhaustion, and a fresh burn darkened her cheek. The factory scales spared no one. She found Ani on the kitchen floor. Her sister sat clutching her knees, her massive wings, already covered in snow-white feathers, trailing across the dusty floor like a heavy cloak. "I can't do this anymore." "Mia," Annie whispered, not looking up. Today, Father was counting again how much a ticket to the capital for the flight trials costs. He didn't buy his cough medicine. He said it was an investment in my triumph. Ani snapped her head up, and her eyes held not joy, but genuine terror. What if I don't pass? What if I'm just a big bird who doesn't know how to catch the wind? What happens to you then? You're killing yourself in that workshop for me. Maya walked slowly to her sister and knelt beside her, still in her factory clothes. She took Ani's palms in her rough skin, touching porcelain paleness. "Listen to me." Maya's voice was quiet, but as firm as the steel she forged. "You are not an investment, and you are not obligated to save us." "But Mother says Mother is afraid of dying here," Maya interrupted. "But I'm not. I am already a part of this city, Ani. My lungs are full of this soot, and I know the taste of this metal. But when you take flight up there in the attic, and I hear the rush of your wings through the ceiling, in that moment, I breathe clean air too. Do you understand? You aren't our ticket out of here. You are our proof that we are human beings, not just machine parts." Maya pulled a small apple from the pocket of her greasy jacket, a rare and expensive fruit in their district. "Eat. You need your strength. The aerodynamics tutor is coming tomorrow. I've already paid for a week in advance." The day of the trials in the capital was the longest day of their lives. A silence fell over the small town. Even the factory whistles seemed muffled as Maya sat by the radio, clutching her mother's old childhood book. When the telegram arrived short, just 3 words, "Accepted, high score," Maya wept for the first time in years. She cried not from grief, but because the massive, invisible burden she had carried on her shoulders for 7 years had finally found its meaning. Their father's cough seemed to vanish by magic. Cured by pride, that evening, they held dinner in the yard. The table groaned under the weight of simple but honestly earned food. Ani's wings, now powerful and gleaming white, were neatly folded behind her back, but even at rest, they took up so much space that the walls of the house seemed too narrow for them. Their mother raised a glass of cheap wine. Her face, etched with wrinkles, was glowing. "We didn't let you fall when you were little," she said, looking at her youngest daughter. "Now fly so high that we can see you even through this smoke." Ani's send-off turns into a celebration for the entire family. Her parents give her all their savings. In their eyes, Ani is their future savior. She departs with the feeling that the entire family's well-being rests upon her wings.